Good afternoon, I'm Laura Skryzypczyk.
And I'm Michelle Stewart.
Will bad checks affect voters on the polls Monday?
And News Central takes a look at Patrick Buchanan's visit to CMU today. Sal with sports and Mark Moses with weather.
As News Central continues.
Serving the Mount Pleasant community and Central Michigan University. With Michelle Stewart, Laura Skryzypczyk, Mark Moses with weather, and Sal Giaco with sports. This is News Central.
On the day before Michigan's presidential primary, CMU was host to a Republican candidate. News Central's Carolyn Wiley has the story.
On the campaign trail, Republican presidential candidate Pat Buchanan spoke today at CMU's Warner Auditorium. Buchanan addressed a crowd of about 2,000 students, faculty, and area residents, telling them why he's running for president.
Back in October, George Bush, who had said repeatedly, "I will not sign a quota bill," went ahead and turned around and signed one. And so that's the first reason I got into this campaign, was that politicians ought to say what they mean and mean what they say.
Buchanan criticized Bush's 1993 budget plan, saying it includes a $25 billion tax increase. He laid out his own ideas for boosting the economy.
I will try to squeeze the resources out of the federal government. I will strip power from the federal government and let it go back to states and cities, and let it go back to workers and businesses and industries who aren't creating the jobs they used to create in the 1980s.
Buchanan accepted several questions from audience members following his speech and then met with the press in the Bovee University Center. Not everyone at the event supported Buchanan, however. He was met by protesters as he left CMU's campus. The protesters gathered to voice their concerns about Buchanan's policies.
He's anti-women, he's anti-environmentalist, he's anti-everything. He's basically white Protestant, and I don't agree with that.
There are a lot of different groups in America who are dissatisfied with Buchanan. We are dissatisfied with Bush, but I don't think the answer lies in Pat Buchanan. He wants to take us back to the cave days, and that is not progress.
After Buchanan left CMU, he headed for a fundraising luncheon at the Mount Pleasant Holiday Inn.
As Pat Buchanan's campaign continues to accelerate across Michigan, so does the political activity at CMU. Carolyn Wiley, News Central.
U.S. Representative Bob Davis admitted to writing bad checks on Saturday. News Central spoke to Arlene Battishaw on her reaction of Davis's actions. She stated that worse things have happened than this, but this is an embarrassment for them and U.S. Michiganders. She also says that at both ends, as long as the officials have changed their ways, it probably wouldn't hurt them at the polls. Battishaw disagrees with this and believes it will have some effect on the voters' decisions. Davis admitted he cited 878 checks, making him the worst offender of overdrafts. Many people feel it's unfair because none of the members who admitted to overdrafting were penalized, but yet they will still consider other factors when at the polls.
Declaring a party preference at tomorrow's primary could have a negative effect on voter turnout. In Michigan's presidential primary, voters must have already declared a party preference or do so at the polls. Any voter can ask for a Republican ballot, but voters on the Democratic ticket must sign a form indicating that they are Democrats. Mount Pleasant City Clerk Rick Sanborn feels that people being forced to declare a party preference may keep a lot of people from coming to the polls. The party declaration will be a part of public record, but has no permanent effect on voters or elections. The polls will be open from 7 o'clock tomorrow morning until 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. A Shepherd man has pleaded no contest in charges of armed robbery. Jeffrey Allen Johnson's trial was set to begin March 23rd in Isabella County Circuit Court. It was to be a retrial on charges stemming from an incident last summer. Johnson and co-defendant George Phelps were accused of robbing a motorist who stopped to see if they were having car problems. Officials say the two hit the victim with a tire iron, then took off with his wallet, an audio power booster, and a fuzz buster as well as a cooler. Phelps was found guilty of armed robbery last month and faces sentencing April 17th. Johnson was to be retried because of an error in a detective's statement made at his trial. He pleaded no contest late last week and is to be sentenced on May 8th. The maximum penalty for armed robbery is life in prison.
Health officials in southwest Michigan are keeping a close eye on an increasing number of cases of tuberculosis. Officials say that an increase in the number of symptoms of the disease have appeared in West Michigan and are threatening to once again make tuberculosis a significant health problem. A year ago, 672 people tested positive for the disease, with 14 active cases. In Kent County, the number may be close to the 800 mark this year. Kent County health officials say tuberculosis cases began rising 4 years ago after nearly a decade of falling figures. And a Wayland woman sentenced to life in prison from the suffocation of her child is asking for a new trial. 24-year-old Diane Spencer is claiming a former police officer on jury persuading jurors to convict her. Spencer was convicted in Allegan County Circuit Court of killing her 6-month-old son, Aaron. Authorities first believe the boy died of sudden infant death syndrome or crib death. Spencer's attorney, Paul Lattis, claims jury foreman William Waltensberger of Saugatuck has bragged about using his police background to convict the jurors.
The Mount Pleasant City Commission will hold a work session tonight to discuss the proposals from the Riot Task Force Committee. The final plan comes after months of meetings. A total of 35 recommendations will be presented to the Commission this evening. The Commission will discuss all of the proposals, but will not make any decisions on them at tonight's meeting. The recommendations bringing the most attention are those dealing with student discipline. The task force is recommending suspension of students on the first offense who furnish alcohol to minors. The meeting is at 6 p.m. is at City Hall and is open to the public. A proposal to bring casino gambling to Windsor has gambling opponents in Detroit worried that they might beat it to the punch. A major Canadian developer is trying to negotiate a deal to build a casino in the Canadian city on the Detroit River. Windsor Mayor Mike Hurst says a casino in that area could find customers from an estimated 50 million Americans in Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana. Detroit voters defeated several casino gambling proposals in the 70s and the 80s. Michigan law prohibits such establishments except on Indian reservations.
Could it be that our parents led us astray? Could fresh vegetables actually have fewer vitamins than canned or frozen vegetables? Well, our Health Beat reporter, Candy Kopflesh, has more.
Crisp lettuce and red ripe tomatoes. There's just something alluring about fresh produce. What could be healthier? Well, believe it or not, frozen and canned vegetables may actually be better for you. According to researchers at the University of Illinois, frozen and canned vegetables can have as much vitamin concentration as their unprocessed counterparts, and sometimes even more. Fresh produce has a long ride from the farm to the grocery store. Every day a vegetable is in an open bin, it's exposed to vitamin-depleting sources such as light, air, and heat. However, frozen and canned vegetables are processed immediately after being harvested, preserving vitamins and nutrients. This example with green beans illustrates the amount of vitamin C that can be lost after harvesting. Fresh beans just picked have 17 milligrams, whereas 9 days they only have 6.2. Frozen beans, when frozen, have 14.1 milligrams, but after 16 weeks only have 11.8. There are a few easy ways to preserve vitamins to get the full benefit from eating your veggies. Whenever possible, buy locally grown produce and use or refrigerate immediately. To keep vitamin content high, microwave or steam vegetables. Use vegetables as soon as you trim and cut them. Storing them cut exposes them to the vitamin-depleting effects of the air. I'm Candy Cobflesh for Health Beat. Stay healthy.
Police say a 14-year-old Detroit boy was killed by another teenager who told him to hang up the phone so that he could use it. Demetrius Davis was pronounced dead at his home after the weekend shooting. Police are looking for a 17-year-old boy who formerly lived on the block where the shooting occurred. The victim's cousin, 13-year-old Gregory Davis, says the older teen told Demetrius to hang up the phone and pointed a gun at him. When Demetrius told the gunman to put the weapon away, he was shot in the head. Andrea Davis says her son Demetrius respected her rules, which included never playing with guns.
And coming up in world news, is Amelia Earhart still alive?
And a look at what's new on the presidential campaign trail when News Central continues.
This is Anna. She has a lot. She has a mother who loves her and a roof over her head. But tar paper walls don't keep out the night chill. She doesn't have enough to eat, sometimes little more than tortillas. She doesn't have the books and supplies she needs to stay in school. And education is her key to a better life. Anna and others like her need someone to help. Could you help? For over 25 years, Children Incorporated has been matching children like Anna with sponsors like you. Your tax-deductible donation of only $21 each month will help provide food, clothes, medical care, and education. You'll receive a picture of the child you're helping and opportunity for personal contact. Please don't wait. Imagine how your help will make Anna or a child like her feel. You can give hope. Write or call Children Incorporated, 1-800-538-5381. That's Children Incorporated, 1-800-538-5381.
And fellow mountain goats, this year's recipient of the treasured Black Horn Award, Richard Lynch. Come on up here, Dick.
What are you doing this weekend that's so important you can't take a little time to test your home for radon? After all, it is the second leading cause of lung cancer, and a radon test kit is inexpensive. You could pick one up on your way to the lodge.
On the campaign trail, in last night's Democratic presidential debate in Chicago, the topics went from tax cuts and trade policies to accusations and shouting matches. Democratic candidate Jerry Brown accused Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton of funneling state business to his wife Hillary's private law firm. However, Clinton is denying the charges and telling Brown to pack up his tent and go home. Paul Tsongas backed away from the argument, saying the candidate that remains above the fray becomes the alternative. President Bush is talking international affairs on a trip to Wisconsin and Illinois. Polls indicate that Bush will sweep tomorrow's primaries in Illinois and Michigan. The president is leading Pat Buchanan by a wide margin, but Buchanan vows to stay in the race even if he loses big in the Midwest primaries. One Irish-American gay activist says you can't keep an Irishman down, but some of the people lining yesterday's St. Patrick's Day parade in Boston tried to do just that. Some spectators threw firecrackers and beer cans at marchers. Others screamed obscenities and waved signs. It was the first time in the parade's 91-year history that an openly gay group was admitted into the parade under its own banner. A judge last week ordered parade organizers to admit the group's entry. Police say at least 6 people were arrested during the violence. Chrysler executives and directors met over the weekend to talk over their successor for Lee Iacocca. And today, top officials met to announce that GM executive Robert Eaton will become the new vice chairman and the CEO for the corporation after Iacocca's retirement. 52-year-old Eaton is formerly a major player in General Motors.
Just when a lot of hard work is about to pay off, I also understand that the global auto market is going to be very tough in the years ahead. It's going to be absolutely unforgiving. But Chrysler has seen the future maybe a little more clearly than some of the other companies in the industry. And it certainly saw it a little bit earlier and began to develop the leanness and the agility to cope with it.
Iacocca retires December 31st from his role as chairman, but he will stay on as Chrysler chief.
And the famous pilot who mysteriously disappeared, Amelia Earhart, was found today. And found if you consider remnants of her plane and a heel of a shoe as proof. But investigator Richard Gillespie is convinced that the mystery is solved. 55 years ago, Earhart and partner Noonan tried to become the first aviators to fly around the globe. Their plane disappeared in July of 1937. They were over the South Pacific. Today, investigator Gillespie says artifacts discovered in the Pacific island include a piece of metal that comes from Earhart's plane. Gillespie also makes reference to a size 9 shoe heel, the same size worn by Earhart. The brand of shoe was one that was popular at the time. Gillespie says that an error in the navigation led Earhart and Noonan to land on the island, Nika Maroa. He believes the aviator survived for several days.
Flat at the island's western end. For 3 days, radio distress calls were sent, but sometime between July 5th and July 9th, high seas severely damaged the aircraft and swept it out and over the edge of the reef. Earhart and Noonan survived for an unknown period of time before dying on the waterless atoll.
And the New York Times says federal safety commissioners have looked at the metal and were unable to confirm or knock down Gillespie's discovery. And South African President F.W. de Klerk is pleading with white voters to end apartheid in tomorrow's whites-only referendum. De Klerk says he will resign if referendum is rejected. He predicts division and destruction. According to South African press associates, nearly 300 people have been already killed. The political violence has frightened whites and increased support for right-wing conservatives who want to maintain apartheid. Nelson Mandela, the African National Congress leader, also predicts disaster if reform fails. White South Africans will form their own homelands.
It is going to mean that the right wing, which has threatened to bring back apartheid, then South Africa is headed for the most ugly clash in the history of the country.
Up next, Mark Moses will have the weather.
Tonight, and it could bring us a chance of rain or snow. I'll have details ahead.
Compete, you've got to be strong. To win, you've got to be smart. Maybe you can be one of us, the few, the proud, the Marines.
hottest in the world. In the last 40 years, none had more power than this one.
Now here's a few reasons why you should watch All Kidding Aside. All Kidding Aside, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 p.m. on Moore Hall, Channel 34.
Currently, the temperature stands at 35 degrees, the barometer is 29.99 and falling, the humidity stands at 48%, and the dew point is 18, while the wind is out of the southwest at 22 and gusty, and the sun sets today at 6:47. Take a look at conditions around the nation. The system that will be affecting our weather for tonight had a real big effect on the west coast, down into California, all the way up into Seattle and in Montana. It brought a lot of rain and snow into the higher elevations, but it did produce a lot of warm temperatures throughout this area because the jet stream goes up, but then down around in our area, it is taking it so it keeps our temperatures quite cool. But this system will be moving into our area for tonight, bringing us a chance of maybe rain and snow, so it'll be kind of nasty out there. You probably want to be watching it. And otherwise, down in the state of Florida, they had a front that moved through there for later on, and that caused a lot of rain and snow in that area too. But up and along in Lake Erie and Ontario areas, they had snow that was about 2 feet of snow, because the lake affects snow for all those cold temperatures in there. But now that system's moved out, there's a high pressure system dominating that area right now, and it's bringing them mostly clear skies, but it is quite cool. Otherwise, around the state, we can see that it is cloudy over most of the northern half of Michigan and the peninsula area. Well, the clouds are beginning to move into our area around Traverse City and Alpena and Mount Pleasant area. And this will continue on for tonight, as we'll be getting mostly cloudy and everything's in there. But it did get quite cool last night, as Alpena set a record low, 6 degrees. That broke the old record from 1967, which was 7. So it has been quite cool out there. And we take a look at the forecast, we can see that it will be 30% chance of rain or snow, with a low of around 31, and the wind be coming out of the southwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour. While tomorrow will be mostly cloudy, a high of 43, with the west wind becoming 10 to 15 miles per hour. And on into Wednesday, mostly sunny as that frontal system moves out, a high of 33 and a low of 17. But Thursday, another chance of snow comes in as the front heads in, and we head back into the winter for a few more days.
So we'll be stuck with a cold front for a while.
A cold front and some snow later on.
Have to deal with it.
Yep.
Okay, Sal's next with sports.
Dance is set to go in college basketball, and we'll take a look at how the Spartans and Wolverines face up against the competition. Details of this and more ahead in sports.
Salisbury, Maryland, the hungry are being fed. In Wind Falls, Indiana, a man who learned to read at 47 is making sure others learn earlier. In Hope, New Mexico, people turned an abandoned school into a thriving community center. In Boston, Massachusetts, neighbors set up a crime hotline that's making their streets safer. From Seattle to Galveston, from Buffalo to Fargo, every day, someone in America is doing something to light up another life. But there is so much more to do. The light to do it is within us all. We only need to share it. Contact the Points of Light Foundation. Do something good. Feel something real.
Honey, it's Mom. Please let me in. I'm worried.
Learn to see the signs of mental illness. 2 out of 3 people who get help get better. For a free booklet, call the American Mental Health Fund.
We made it! Hey, I couldn't have gotten through physics without you.
Yeah, well, you're on your own at college.
It's not fair.
That's all right. I'm gonna get a job, you know. I'm gonna start working, I'm gonna save. And I'll be in college in another year or 2.
So, what do you have planned, Mike?
I think I'm gonna go home and make a sandwich. Okay, man.
Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
The teams are in, the brackets are organized, and March Madness about to kick in full gear. Everything is all set to go Thursday when the opening rounds tip off. The top 64 teams were selected and organized yesterday. Let's take a look at how the MAC and the Big Ten conferences fit into the big dance. MAC representative Miami, who beat Ball State Saturday to win the MAC championship, is the 13th seed in the Southeast region. They'll match up against the number 4 seed North Carolina Tar Heels. The powerhouse from the ACC may be a quick hello goodbye tournament for the Redskins. Meanwhile, Ohio State gets the number 1 seed after Indiana fell to Purdue yesterday, giving the Buckeyes the Big Ten championship. Nebraska, UConn, Stanford, Alabama all round out the Southeast bracket. In the other, the University of Michigan, perhaps a surprise to many, is the seeded 6th in the region. They will open up against the Temple Owls, but the Wolves aren't worried about their placing. They're just pumped up about the big tournament.
I'm very confident. You know, a lot of people say we should have been seeded higher than 6, which I feel, but it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You can lose to a 16th seed team, and we're a good team, so we're going to play well.
Spartans of Michigan State find themselves as the 5th seed in the Midwest region. They'll open up against number 12 Southwest Missouri State. Coach Judd Heathcote, unlike last year, a little bit more satisfied with the seeding and sounding a bit more optimistic too.
Looking at another plus, it would be that we are involved in the Friday game rather than the Thursday game. This is finals week. This is also an extra day for Peplowski to heal in terms of his sprained ankle, which is, they had it x-rayed. The x-rays were negative, but it is a severely sprained ankle.
Speaking of those Spartans, they ended the season with a win over Iowa yesterday. Matt Stegina led the way with 17 points. As Heathcote mentioned, Mike Peplowski playing on a tender ankle. No sign of effects on that dunk. The Spartans finished the season at 21-7 overall, tied with Michigan for 3rd place in the Big Ten. In the NHL, the Detroit Red Wings desperately hanging on to that 7-point lead in the North Division. They'll continue their road trip tomorrow in San Jose. Yesterday, a tired Detroit team played their 3rd game in 4 days on the road. They come away with a 1-1 tie against Winnipeg in Winnipeg. Wings perhaps showing some of their frustrations of late. At least Keith Primo was, giving a few right hands before the referees pile on. Not many pucks, but watch Red Wing Brad March sliding, whoops, right into the net. But the Wings got serious. The lone wing goal, Steve Yzerman, will send it in front to Keith Primo, redirects it in. Wings up 1-0, but on the power play, the Jets tie it for good. Nice passing in front for Ed Olchuk, who puts it past Greg Millen, and the Wings salvage a tie on the road. And finally, at the Honda Classic in Fort Lauderdale, Corey Pavin and Fred Couples golfed until dusk before the winner was finally decided. Pavin sank a birdie in the 2nd hole of sudden death to edge Couples and capture his 1st tournament victory of the year. Pavin on 18. Just an incredible shot, an 8-iron. Right there, watch it closely. It went in the hole, scored a birdie. Do you think he's fired up about that one? Then Fred Couples needing a birdie right here to tie it on 18 to force sudden death. Watch the approach. Wow. He tapped that in later for birdie, but in sudden death, Couples falls short on this birdie attempt, and then Pavin, smooth as silk, sinks the pressure shot and walks away with a cool $180,000. That'll do it for sports.
Well, thanks, Sal. Laura?
The fashionable family of the near future will strew twigs, roots, and straw around the house. It sounds like third world home decorating, but people at a trade show in New York expect to pay them for their services. The designers say their purchase of natural materials will show your love of nature. Naturally, just any nature won't do. The tropical beach setting seems to be preferred. Jane Kralik of New York City uses palm roots, banana bark, and sea urchin skeletons to decorate with. She says the urchin was a Caribbean inspiration. She must have been itching for for an urchin. How about that one?
Not exactly home interiors.
Okay. Well, good night from all of us here at News Central. We'll see you tomorrow.